I really do believe that I play my iPad and my laptop and my iPhone as if they are a Stradivarius, right? I just make beautiful music with my laptop. Like I get 10x productivity out of my machines.
Welcome to the Whole You podcast. I'm Shannon O'Brien. These episodes explore topics related to pursuing your life's work and living a balanced, purposeful life. We dive into subjects related to wellness, career, and service. We hope you feel engaged in the conversations, share your comments, and click subscribe. I'm thrilled to welcome Thomas McGonigal, who is a solutions architect at Armory.io. Since childhood, Thomas has always had a genuine passion for technology. Thomas is adept at recognizing and personally investing in open source market-leading platforms. He uses his insight and genuine desire for service to help his customers with their most difficult continuous delivery problems. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
We first met, I think, a couple of years ago when you were first a client of Whole You and you were considering to take on this new role. Then now you've circled back and graciously offered to serve as my digital mentor, which I must say is very life-changing, and I'm so grateful. I'm also grateful for you to share your time here to share tips with our audience about how to optimize technology to enhance our professional lives. I'm sure you see this day in and day out, but can you speak to some of the frustrations and stress that are caused by technology, simple technology?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's frustration and stress. And, I see it with my parents. I have elderly parents, and, they have various Social Security paperwork that they have to submit. My sister's on disability, and to do so requires, two-factor authentication. And what that refers to is basically getting an email when it's time to log into the Social Security website. And frankly, it's beyond their capabilities, right? And so I've had to take over that responsibility of getting the paperwork filled out every week and submitted.
Even signing into this call today, here we're trying to sign in and have a simple chat that we're going to record, and all of the different problems that happen in the background, I'm sure everybody listening can relate to it.
The two-factor authentication things that we ran into today, the single sign-on things that we ran into today, the multiple email accounts, issue that we ran into today. These are just massive frustrations that people have to deal with in their personal lives, especially as our digital lives become much, much more rich. We, invest so much more in all these different tools and tooling, but I'm very lucky. I've been we can kind of dig into my background, but I don't have these problems. I don't tolerate them. I optimize to not have them. I literally just fly. I just fly throughout my day and my work day, and the efficiencies that I've been able to create are just optimal.
That is so appealing, that ability to fly and to be freed from these, some of these frustrations that are so inevitable. And I think that is maybe one of the goals of our conversation, is to learn from you, is to learn a couple of tips of how we can be productive, can be digitally productive. So that's the focus of this conversation, is digital productivity and how to optimize our lives through technology. I remember you making a comment that your technology is optimized in such a way that you can just focus on your relationships and focus on what matters. And so you just gave that beautiful example of helping your parents fill out this paperwork. I'm sure they're doubly frustrated because, as you said, they're elderly. They're not maybe as used to even signing into email on a daily basis. And here they are having to submit paperwork to the government. And that's just such a stressful situation. So personal tasks, professional tasks, I think, every one of us deals with this. And back to the anecdote about the frustrations we were experiencing just signing into Zoom, it was, okay, we have a link. We have a calendar invite with a link to Zoom, which Zoom is like Skype or Google Hangouts or any, conversation platform. And we just want to have a simple chat. And we go to that link, and I've forgotten my password. And then I have multiple emails, and it became like very, very messy, but thankfully you were very patient and helping me to just, go step by step and figuring it out and how to sign in. You have a nice framework that helps us figure out how we can optimize our technology. And to do that, you suggest 3 simple categories that you think we should all invest in. So you say to invest in people, invest in process, and invest in technology. If we could start with your overall work philosophy.
At Armory, we have this concept of playing your device playing your computer as if it's an instrument. And so I really do believe that I play my iPad and my laptop and my iPhone as if they are a Stradivarius, right? I just make beautiful music with my laptop. Like I get 10x productivity out of my machines. And what I mean by that is that I do have, I have 20 years of professional experience. And when I approach a task, the time it takes me for me to accomplish it is 10% what I expect it to be. And so I have these kind of old-fashioned expectations around my tasking, and I'm accomplishing them in 10% of the time. So I'm 10x more productive because I am playing my computers and my devices as if they're this sweet musical instrument. And what do you have to do to play the Stradivarius and be a world-class performer? Well, you have to invest in people, process, and technology. And what the people part refers to in my thinking was you have to invest in conductors and coaches and mentors and people that are going to help you do better.
One of the reasons I'm so excited to have this conversation with you is to share best practices and tips and, how do you do it and which software do you use? Because obviously we all want to have an answer, but one solution might be better for my needs and one solution might be better for your needs. So to have a conversation with friends and share these insights, I think is a great thing to do. I love what you said about, bring this musicality, or at least have a reverence for your tools. They're quite unbelievable, right? The amount of time that we spend on our iPads, on our iPhones, smartphones, these technologies are really extraordinary. They're mind-blowing. And to bring a reverence to them and as you said, maybe hire people who are using their tools in the way that they should be used, like a conductor, a coach, who's already optimizing their tools and their technology. We can only learn from them. And then I would imagine, just like a musician, what is the key component to becoming better is practice, 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 trying, failing, practicing some more, and optimizing.
I think that was beautifully put. I particularly identify with the practice. So I played football for 8 years. I played football at Bentley College in Boston, and it's all about practice. And unfortunately, there's so much friction with these digital tools. It's interfering with people from practicing it. They don't want to practice it. Like what we were doing today when we were troubleshooting, I would describe as practice, right? We were practicing figuring it out, practicing figuring out the password and getting that resolved. Very much my approach to playing my devices like an instrument comes from football. You basically at the higher levels, you optimize for speed, right? It's all you just practice for speed. All you do is you work on your foot speed. And so that's what I've been doing with my tooling is I just optimize and I practice for speed and speed of execution. What I do is I don't repeat myself. I just don't repeat myself. I don't, if I have to put in a password, I put it into my password management system and then I never worry about it again. And that's something that we did today with this kind of password management problem that we had logging into Zoom is we captured the correct username and we captured the correct password and we put it into your password management system. So you're not going to have to worry about it ever again. You're going to always be able to log in on first shot with Zoom.
I was not as familiar with password management systems. So the one that I use is called Dashlane, and I've only signed up just a couple weeks ago. But there's other ones, right? LastPass.
Yeah,
You use
LastPass, and my favorite is 1Password, and 1Password is a unicorn. They just took on like $200 million in venture capital after being in business for 14 years, and it's a very good one. And I do want to kind of dig into some tips and tricks around password management. And it keeps coming up. It came up with my elderly parents. It came up with our issues today. And once again, I don't have these problems. And at Armory, my company that I work at, we share all our passwords with 1Password. It's actually got a group management system, and then there's like a password to log into it. But that's all automated through single sign-on. I can discuss those details later on, but that's really kind of advanced password management for a company of 120 people to be able to manage their passwords. So there's a lot of space in this. There's a lot of opportunity for space, but it's something that I feel is extremely necessary for the lay person to develop skills in. Just password a good password management is a very complex password, and it's different for every website that you go to, believe it or not. And the only way to manage that is through 1Password, to have this master level password, and then have that kind of parcel out these extremely complex passwords for your bank and for your Peapod and for your groceries and for all these in Amazon. I think what we all do, or what we all shouldn't do, is have 1Password or like a variation of one password and use that across your accounts. The right thing to do is to have a very complex different password for every website and then manage it through a single management system.
Does the software itself do anything to encrypt it or change it? Or do I need to create different passwords for every, like you said, the bank, the groceries? Should I be putting in different passwords to begin
So
with?
the tools should be putting in the different passwords. So you should be auto generating a random string, basically. And string is
Mm.
a computer science word for a series of characters. So the password management system should be generating those obnoxiously kind of complex passwords, and then you should just have to worry about logging into the Dashlane, and then Dashlane should be automating the like filling out of the username and password for each of your websites, for each of your apps, for each of your Zooms, your various conversational software, all those things. So the password management system should be managing your password. But I think the critical thing that I want to discuss, though, is that what happens if you lose the password to your password management system? You're dead in the water, right?
Yeah.
You're absolutely dead. It's destructive. And so the way 1Pass manages it is that you actually get a file with a decryption key that can unlock your password management system. And then you have to put that somewhere very safe. You have to put it in a lockbox.
So that would be one of the technologies that you recommend investing in.
I think it's beyond critical, but it's just unbelievably important for people to master this one particular part of your digital life. It is the most important. Security and privacy is going to become more and more important. We are seeing a rise in the attacks. These scams and these issues are just going to continue to perpetuate. And the only thing that we can do is outsource as much as we can to technology to get around it.
Well, it seems like there's a double-edged sword there, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit. It's like, who do we trust, right? We're getting these phone calls, we're getting these bot calls. Some
Mm-hmm.
people call and say, this is the government, your social security number is at risk, and then like, it is, how do you have any best practices for being able to decipher whether something is a scam and whether you should respond right away?
So I do sometimes lecture on situational awareness. And so a synonym for situational awareness is mindfulness, right? Like meditative mindfulness, which really amounts to being present and just being aware of your surroundings and using something called the OODA loop, the observe, orient, decide, act. And this OODA loop is a framework that was designed or was developed by fighter pilots to have like millisecond reactions to changing conditions. And so if you're in a situation and your gut tells you something's wrong, you follow your gut. And then you observe, you orient. Your orientation is like noticing that something's wrong. You decide, you make a decision. You're like, I'm gonna hang up on this person, or I'm gonna get out of this situation. Then you act. You follow through on your decision. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. That's a really beautiful acronym. I think more often than not, unfortunately, we're all trained to kind of knee-jerk reaction and just hang up right away. I think but to bring a little bit more presence or mindfulness to feel or to sense, because I think even with all of this technology, we do have the ability to stay conscious and to say, is this legitimate? Is this something that I need in my life? So maybe to just take a moment and ask yourself before you just knee-jerk reaction hang up, to try to like connect with yourself and sense whether it is something that you need to give more attention to.
Yeah, exactly. And so you did mention something before we discussed the OODA loop, and it was who do you trust? And so I'm sure, Shannon, in your life, you have various people that you trust, with your life, or with your this Dashlane decryption key, right? Like not only do you need to have this Dashlane decryption key in your lockbox, you need to have it in your trusted person's lockbox too. So is it your sibling? Is it your parent? Is it your wife? Is it your husband? Who are these people in your life that you trust? Like only you can answer that question.
We've talked about technology and one of the number one things that you would recommend, i.e. a password management system. We talked about people and hiring people that could help you optimize your tools. And how about process?
The way I think of it is it's practice. Having well-defined processes and then optimizing them over time and improving them over time and reevaluating them over time, and having workflows that become like another way to think of it, like in terms of football, it's like muscle memory. Like a lot of what I do, I'm actually not using my brain, I'm using my reflexes. Not to say, I think it's important to share that Armory is a very, very sophisticated product. It is a very complex microservice application. For anyone out in the listener world who knows what that is. And it does run on Kubernetes, which is very, very complex. And so there is a ton of brain activity that I have to devote myself to in order to do my job. And so by outsourcing all the reflexive type stuff, that frees me up, as you mentioned before, to focus on relationships and friends and family, which is what I want to be focusing my life on. And not to say that I don't have a wonderful career that I love, and I love my company, I love my role, but I do love my friends and family more.
Right. It seems so clear, the value proposition of understanding and managing your technology to optimize your life so that you can have better work-life balance, because there are necessary evils, right, of paying taxes. And do you use TurboTax or some automated software to do that and make it easier for yourself? There's taxes is the obvious one, because it's like we need to pay taxes and die. Those are the two things that we're required to do. But then there's all these other elements of life that make it so complicated. Signing up for classes if you're a student, or signing up for memberships. Yeah, ordering groceries, as you mentioned, online, not having to go to the store and wait in line. There's so many components of living a balanced, purposeful life, as I would call it. And I think that overwhelm has really gotten to me and caused a lot of stress, because it is one of my goals, but it's so clear to me how technology can help in that quest. So I'm so incredibly grateful for this pep talk from you, because you've really clarified and crystallized a lot of simple things that we can do, i.e. Invest in technology such as a password management, hire people, and also have a process that's going to work, i.e. repetition, so that it becomes muscle memory, and we no longer have to manage this as a stress response every time we sign into our computers to get something done.
I think you just totally nailed it, and I think it was beautifully put once again, very eloquent. And from my perspective, I just think it just rings so true.
So this was obviously a very high level glimpse at your very deep and wide base of knowledge around this subject. Is there anything, like another burning tip or anything for people who want to get their digital house in order? Any other advice that you would have for them?
So there's, so one of the first things that Shannon and I set up was Slack. And Slack is going to be used by Shannon and her business for various purposes. And we've been communicating over it, and we've been getting a lot of utility out of it. There is a competitor called Keybase, and Keybase is entirely encrypted. And so this kind of gets back to the trust problem, right? So with Slack, you have to trust Slack, the corporation, and nation states have to trust Slack that, that Slack's not going to get co-opted and all these different things. But you don't have that problem with Keybase. And so Keybase has all this additional functionality, including an encrypted Git repository. And for anyone out in listener land that's not familiar with Git, it's this version control system that's very sophisticated and very useful, and software developers use it. So at the end of the program, we're going to actually talk about GitHub and my GitHub README file. And so this is all kind of related. And so with Keybase, you have this Git repository, encrypted Git repository, and it's the perfect place for you to store all of your personal documents. For example, your will, your 1Password decryption key, your various health information and everything. And then you can make this Git repository available to the people that you trust. And then there's this authorization and authentication system built into Keybase that uses like your Twitter account or your Facebook account, or these various other ways to prove you are who you say you are. And so there's this very sophisticated way for you to distribute these incredibly important health files or the 1Password file to your trusted network digitally using this version control system Git that sits on top of Keybase. I know that's a ton of information. It's really hard to understand.
I think I actually got it though. It sounded like if the password keeper is a micro example, this is a macro level example of having your whole life online.
This is the solution to like having a paper-based copy in your lockbox. This is that solution. This is a digital solution for that, and it's the only one that I'm aware of. And that is the play. That is what you want to do. You want to have your important files not in a lockbox somewhere that can get stolen or burned, in a fire or destroyed. You want to have them digitally available for forever. Just to share, Shannon, you're aware, I'm expecting my first kid, and I have this wonderful job, and I have amazing friends and family, and it's just, my life certainly sings. And not to say it didn't always. At this point, at 41, things are going great, and my life is just singing along. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It's beautiful. And it sounds like you're very grateful for everything as well. I'm sure there's hiccups and ups and downs in your life as well as everybody's, but especially with the way that you approach problems or challenges in your life, it sounds like you are proactive. And certainly, as we've been talking now, it's just that technology enables you to fly, enables you to be more mindful about the things that are important to you. So it makes a lot of sense.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Tom, for your time and this pep talk to everyone listening. It's been a pleasure learning from you, and I really look forward to our future conversations to go deeper and deeper, because I think that this conversation will probably be never ending, just like life. Some people believe that it's a never ending journey that we're on here. But as technologies develop and come out, I mean, there will just be more and more to talk about. But with that said, not to be overwhelmed by that and to be excited and open-minded for that, I think that seems to be one of the keys, because I think physiologically our bodies will respond and bug out and get stressed when this happens. But to try to change our mindsets and be a little bit more open to this process, that would be, I think, is one of the, like, a helpful attitude to bring to this.
Oh, I totally agree.
Tom, I know that people are going to want to know more about what you do and who you are. How can we learn more about you?
So you can go to github.com/McGonigal/readme. And that is a software. So this comes from software development, but there's readmes for software. And so this is a readme for Tom. And so for anyone that's curious about me, what I'm all about, and what it's like to work with me and know me, this is the go-to.
I should say, having, gone to that link myself, obviously, and read more about you, I love how you blend in the personal and the professional. And that's, one of my missions, obviously, with Whole You, is the personal and professional life should be inextricably linked. They're part of the same whole. And so I love that you're a demonstration of that you are a good person and a productive employee and a helpful colleague, and that you lead by example. So I think that's what people are going to see when they go to that link.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really been nice of you. Thank you.
So this chat has been super encouraging, and I hope people feel the same way, that they're encouraged that there are solutions, that people don't need to be overwhelmed, and that we can engage help from others like yourself when we feel stuck with any technology or digital challenges, and there are people, superheroes, that we can call upon to help us. So thank you so much for your time, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. Be good, okay? Be good, everybody.
For more insights on wellness, career, and service, check out wholeyou.info. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you a balanced, purposeful day.